Now let's talk finally about the eminent domain process. It's not something that's directly related to everything that happens with the tolling orders, but there is one final point that bears mention that most people aren't familiar with. So again, thinking back to your constitutional law class or your civics class, the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution says property shall only be taken for public use upon just compensation. And so you're probably thinking, well, if this property is taken in eminent domain, at least the landowner is getting money for it. And so if the pipeline is going through the pecan grove and the farmer loses a harvest, at least he's getting compensated. No, that's not the case. The way the eminent domain process works and the way that courts have permitted it to work is that the company can go to court with its certificate. The company can say, look, we've got this contract. We have got to get this pipeline built in 6 months. We have got to get going right now. We can't take the time to figure out compensation for all these landowners. We need to move now. And courts have allowed them to do that. What courts will allow the companies to do is to take possession of the property. So to get on the property and start surveying the property and building the pipeline and posting a bond that will eventually be used to pay the landowners. So the company can go ahead and build the project, they can put it in service before there's ever been a proceeding to resolve the issue of how much money landowners should be paid. So that's problematic again for a couple of reasons. Many times it could be 4 or 5 years before a landowner sees a dime of compensation for a pipeline that takes property in eminent domain in court and puts that pipeline into service. So you can have a company that has a multi-million-dollar project in service that's generating millions of dollars a month, every month off that pipeline, and a landowner whose pecan grove was destroyed or who isn't able to farm on his property. That landowner has nothing and doesn't get paid for 3 or 4 or 5 years. That happens in many, many of the cases that I see, and that is really problematic.